All right, listen, like we heard the Warriors talking about this, and Marcus Thompson II, very talented writer and author, columnist, media personality. Look, the reason we're having this conversation, you can make the argument we're having this conversation about drama and all this other stuff, all this other noise. It might go back to Steve Kerr with broke the code.
Yeah.
Once Steve Kerr said broke code, everybody was like, oh, what? Oh, for real? And so that's where isn't that where the edge is really coming from?
Yeah, probably. I could imagine the Grizzlies organization didn't like that. But also, I mean, universally speaking, anybody's in the air, you just get hypersensitive about it. Like, that's just what it is. I don't know, man. My 2-inch vertical don't really afford me the opportunity to know what that's like to be in the air and get fouled from behind like that. But from people who I know with hops who talk about that, they do call it that. This just feels like a playoff series, man. I kind of miss this. I haven't been in this for a couple years, so this reminds me of Cleveland and Warriors back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Clippers, Warriors. It ain't a real series until somebody's trying to get somebody suspended, apparently.
I like it. I dig it. Meanwhile, though, Warriors put up a $142 in the last game. And the only problem that they've had this series is doubtful for tonight, if not the remainder of the series. Did the Warriors more or less separate themselves in Game 3 from the Grizzlies?
I think that's what part of this is about, right? They left Game 2. I remember leaving Game 2 of Memphis, there was this sense like, the Warriors were in trouble. And it was like, wait a second, they won Game 1 and quite nearly won Game 2 despite a poor game. So it's like, this series may not be as close as people think. So I do think Memphis kind of realized what we all kind of forgot about, man. It's different taking out champions. Like, you just don't get to walk in and beat a champion. Like, they're gonna be a tough out. So now you look at it, Ja dropped 47 and they, and 18 in the fourth and got them Game 2. Like, that's the difference between them being down 3-0. So all of that kind of hype going into this series, it's looking rough now for Memphis. They didn't get swept, so that's a good thing. But, man, seeing this go past 5 look a little tough right now.
All right, now listen, I like what you're saying here. Now, you called them very instinctively, very smoothly, you called them champions. You also said you hadn't been here in a while, so they had a couple of trips to the lottery before getting back here. I know they got championships on their resume. Do you look at this as a continuum, 2-year pause, they're back, and you look at this group here still as championship contenders?
You know what? I'll keep it. It depends on the feel. Sometimes it feels like a completely new iteration, but for this series, it feels like a continuation because they played Memphis in 2015, right? Because it was like it's a revisiting of kind of the dynastic beginnings. I mean, the truth is, as long as you got Steph, Clay, and Draymond, this will be a continuation for them, right? And I think that's the part that's so jarring in this series. Like, it's Steph, it's Clay, it's Draymond. They're still incredibly tough to beat. They still perform at this incredibly high level once the playoffs kick in. We hadn't seen it in a while, so it does feel like a continuation. But then you got guys like Jordan Poole, right? Like, this is brand new, so there's a little bit of a newness to it. I think this whole season has been about merging this dynasty era with the new breed. They've done it actually pretty well. We're seeing it now, but I'm torn. When Draymond, if and when he wins a championship, they're certainly going to act like this is a continuation of their dynasty. So I'm going to go with them on that one. But, man, sometimes it does feel like a completely different team, even though the top players are still there, including Iguodala, who I always forget about.
So I think it was Jason Jones pointed out the Kings are tapping into some of that Warriors championship DNA for the fourth time since 2013.
As always, right?
Yeah. They go.
Wow.
Vivek Ranadive is going there again with a Warriors assistant, Mike Brown, who's certainly been around the block quite a few times, respected assistant coach, former head coach at a couple of stops, of course, most notably Cleveland. Why do you think Mike Brown will be able to solve the puzzle that is getting the Kings back to the playoffs for the first time in forever. If he is the man to do it.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It might not just be one man's job.
I don't know. Hey, listen,
I'm going to put that much on this one person's shoulders. You know?
Right? Like, this is whole.
That's too much for one man to bear.
Look, if it don't work, right, Mike get to wash his hands like Pilate. Like, hey, I ain't had nothing to do with it, right? Yeah. So, but if he pulls it off, he becomes a legend, right? A hero. I do feel like, being with the Warriors and being with the championship, luster, it'll bring some draw with him, right? It'll bring some prestige to him. I also think he's been through this before, building a team from nothing. Now, mind you, he had a dude named LeBron James, so maybe you and I could build something from nothing if you got LeBron James. But the processes of becoming a winner, and I do think that's what the Kings need. They need somebody to just take that next step, right? Like, first step is becoming good and consistent and making the playoffs. So he's got some foundation pieces. I do think because of what his name has become, because of who he's connected to, like, the stench of that Lakers situation has died a lot. I do think when he makes a call, people will come. And that is as important as anything. Who does he get on his bench, right? Who does he get working with him? How many... Can he pluck a couple of players from the Warriors even, right? Vivek, if he hasn't shown anything else, he's shown, like, he's trying to take from the Warriors' treasure chest, right? Like, he wants to rob the Warriors of anything he could get. Like, Mike Brown might walk out of that Joker with some Warriors staplers and notepads just because that's how you do it, right?
Stationary.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you can take from the Warriors, you take it. So hey, man, does he try to poach a couple players? But when Mike Brown picks up that phone and says, I need you to come with me, he's going to be able to get some top-level assistance because he is Mike Brown.
But you know what, Marcus? I'm just so fascinated with this story. I had to look twice.
Right.
When it said Mike Brown after 7 years with Golden State. I was like, really? Was it 7 years?
Facts.
That just went so fast. But I think it's so smart the way he did it. He was a really good coach. I mean, you look at his winning percentage. I know he had LeBron and all that stuff, but he didn't have LeBron. They came up. He took pretty much one of the worst teams I've seen to the finals with LeBron in 2007. He did a lot of good things as a head coach. I think it's smart to take that step back and be there, stay there for 7 years, and then get another opportunity. What have you seen? Can you tell us like anything about him personally that will make him at least relate to a player or get a player's attention? Anything about Mike Brown, the man, personality-wise, that will make him a good fit for the Kings?
Man, Mike Brown has figured out life, man. People don't notice about Mike Brown. First off, that dude been collecting like 3 checks for years. Like, he played this game so perfectly.
Bobby Bonilla.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I respect that too. I respect it.
Right? Hey, if anybody if your coach pull you aside and be like, hey, man, let me tell you how to get this money, and it's Mike Brown, he was like, yo, I was getting paid from the Warriors, Lakers, and Cavs all at one time, right? But I do feel like, remember Mike Brown, when he left the Lakers, it was all bad for him, right? Like, his name was kind of in the mud, but like, he has seen what the bottom looks like, and he's seen what the tops look like. And I do feel like that gives a coach a certain perspective. And I also feel like he's not in a championship or bust situation either. Like, he gets time to slow cook his situation. It's not the pressure of you got to win right now. It's the pressure of building something. I just think he's learned a lot. He's a really solid dude. He's an honest guy, right? He's going to tell you like it is. He is very old school in that sense, but he's also got like that new blood personality with him. I do feel like the fact that this dude is an OG of OGs, right? He's been around the blocks. He's got a resume. He rides Harleys. Like, dude is just different, man.
Does
like,
he really?
He's super smart, right? Yeah. Mike Brown would tear up out of here in a heartbeat and ride. Yeah, like, he just like, man, Mike Brown is an OG who figured out life. I do feel like players will be like, hey, hold on, man. I like sitting at this dude's feet because he's got some intelligence about him, man. That stuff matters when you're building something. I think he knows the difference now between, hey, I get the time to work, I get to do my thing, and you pick Sacramento, right? Like, you going from ashy to classy. You already know you got some time, right? You ain't got to win a title in 2 years, man. You just got to make the play.
One would think. One would think you got some
exactly,
time.
One would think.
So look, Thompson, I know you have it all the time. You probably have it at least once a week, if not more. But you ain't had it with us. It's time for the Mark Jackson conversation. You got to, you got to explain. I mean, that's the mystery, is when, if at all, Mark Jackson's going to get another opportunity to coach. You know what he meant to the foundation of the aforementioned Warriors dynasty. What's your read on Mark Jackson's coaching prospects, if any? We've seen he's interviewed a few places. The Lakers, he was a finalist for the Kings job. I think the Hornets might have interviewed him as well. What's your read on his situation?
I do feel like he was really close. I do feel like this came down to, one of them situations where if the owner just wanted to Debo everybody, right, he'd had a gig, which is progress. This might be like on some Barry Bonds Hall of Fame situation, right, where you just kind of got to wait it out and you just got to keep going, and then let the Veterans Committee put you in. I do think at some point what being right there at the altar is showing that at some point he's got to address publicly like all of the issues people have with him. And, it feels like he might be doing some of that stuff privately. He's certainly doing enough to keep getting interviewed and being a finalist. So maybe what people are hearing from him is showing like what they've heard about him may be addressed. But I do think he's running into the situation where even if the team wants him, now you got to deal with the bad PR from hiring him, right? That has gone unaddressed. So whether it's real, whether it's not, whether it's all exaggerated, who knows? The point is, whenever his name gets mentioned in a situation, there's a segment of the fan base like, no, not that guy. So I do think he's so close where it's probably time for him to address that, because it seems like that's the only hurdle.
It
seems like it's everything.
Okay.
It's a little bit like, but that's the thing with Mark Jackson, right? You can kind of, like, he's such a polarizing figure he's become. You can kind of pick a thing. Some people don't like how, his religiosity about it and how overt he is with it. Some people don't like him because of, comments he's made in the past, and, they're connecting him to homophobia. Some people saw how he just super clashed with management, right, with the Warriors front office and ownership group, and he's got like coaches recording him in secret. So there, depending on who you are, you might grab on one of them, and I do think some people just don't like him as an announcer. But what to me, I think in the end will outride all of that is he took a franchise that hadn't won the playoff series in forever, and and he got them to another level, right? And he's got
Steph Curry the ball,
Draymond.
Right?
Exactly. Gave
Started
the ball,
Draymond,
and those dudes champion him, right? So at some point, what they say will have some weight. But I do think he was right there. This was really close to being his job. But I do think there's the PR element that needs to be addressed. So it might take another run at it for him to get it, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of things that people have said about Mark Jackson. I'll bet you nobody has had the conversation that Mike and I did very briefly until I backed away from it. We were talking about, remember this, Mike? We were talking about pure point guards. And I was like, you can make the argument that Mark Jackson is up there as a pure point guard. I said, nah, I couldn't do it. I was going all time, Marcus, all time.
Like top
pure
what?
Point guard.
5, top 10?
Right. I know.
You ain't saying the great. I mean,
I may have
as long
gone
as
top
Magic,
5. I think I may have gone top 5. I'm backing away.
Is Magic number 1? Is Magic number 1 pure point guard?
Yeah, Magic's one.
Okay.
Magic's
right.
got one locked up. But you answered my other question, because I do remember Steph saying it was some situation where Mark Jackson had said publicly he voted for somebody else's MVP the year Steph won it, and somebody went back to Steph and said, "Oh, he said that? That's real interesting." He seemed to have some feelings on it. So they're all good. Mark Jackson and Steph, Mark Jackson and Clay, Draymond. That's all solid.
Yeah. That, even the Steph Curry ruined basketball. I remember asking Steph about that. He was like, I mean, I know what he's saying, but there was a wince. Like, but I mean, just as recently as like 3 weeks ago, him and Draymond were on a podcast together, raving about how they can't believe Mark Jackson doesn't have a job. So whatever it is, they want him in, right? And they feel like he deserves a shot. So as long as they're still championing his cause, that's for sure. I mean, obviously there are people who aren't, but it's just interesting to see the value being placed on like how this works, right? Like, Steph and Draymond and Clay and Andre Iguodala is like, yeah, man, this dude made us. Like we became who we are because of him. And then you have this other segment that's like, yo, he is not it. And which one wins, right? And Sacramento became a test case for who had the most power. And because Mike Brown was there and he's such a qualified candidate, it was easy to kind of back off of. Or maybe not easy, but there was an out there. So I'm curious about how the Lakers handle it, right? Because now Mark Jackson's going to be all in the mix with the Lakers. And if there's no easy kind of obvious answer, do they just roll with it? This is going to be interesting to watch.
Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask, because everybody and their mama got a voice in the coaching search in LA. But let me ask you this. We were talking about this earlier when it came to Steph Curry, speaking of his MVP years. And you remember this. You remember the uproar, the backlash, when Steph was unanimous MVP, as if it was some kind of an affront, an offense to all the great players in NBA history that Steph Curry was the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. I don't know how deep you've been on NBA Twitter today or the internet or whatever, but we were talking about this earlier. The reaction to Nikola Jokic being back-to-back MVP is similar. It's like, how is he back-to-back MVP? Well, because he was better than he was last year, and he was the best player in the league this year. He may not be the best player in the world, that mythical title that Giannis occupies, but like, this is a deserving, rightful, legitimate, valid MVP being back-to-back. What do you make of the voting? And more important, I guess, for purpose of this conversation, what do you make of the reaction to Nikola Jokic being MVP for the second straight season?
Yeah, to me, we're just out of control now, right? And part of the dialogue that's problematic is if you believe Joel Embiid was the MVP, and I would have voted for him. I don't have a vote, but I would have voted for Embiid. That somehow means Jokic is trash, right? And it's like, what are you guys talking about? Like, this dude is incredible, right? Take your pick, whatever. Maybe
it can only be one.
Yes, it's like there's one, and then everybody else is awful, right? Like, to me, that's the part where it's crazy. I'm just tired. I feel like I want a panel, man. I want like the most inscrutinizable collection of basketball minds to choose this stuff. I don't want it to be in the hand. Yeah,
let's do the Illuminati.
It's like
let's get Dr. Strange in them.
No matter what we do, people gonna have a problem with it. Right? I don't even vote anymore, but this idea that the media is controlling it, I think is part of it. It makes it very criticizable, right? But if you got a panel of legends and people who are above reproach when it comes to basketball mindset, now what you gonna say, right? When they say, when Dr. J and them say, right? Like when Shaq and them say,
that's not bad. Yeah. That's not bad. Like if you take Bill
we don't
Russell,
need to be doing it.
You take Russell, Kareem. Let's do this Illuminati. No, you wouldn't put Russell and Kareem. Okay, Michael's saying no. Okay, who you putting on it? Oh,
I put him in there, but I'm saying even with the Illuminati, people would be like, when's the last time they played the game? They don't understand.
They're just old.
Let's diversify it, man. Let's put together 20 people from all of this, right? And so it ain't like Oscar Robertson hating.
So some contemporary people.
Yeah.
Wait, so let me ask you this: Do you only get stars, or do you get some scrubs too to have a diversity of thought as well? Or
right, that would be
former MVP.
Can we create an SAT so you could be on this? Like you got to get a degree or something. So you can be qualified.
It should be. You know what? Mike Krzyzewski, Jay Wright, and Roy Williams ain't doing nothing. I put them on it too. Like I just get basically we got a college football playoff committee. We got an NCAA tournament selection committee. I'm feeling this. This is problem solving, think tanking 101.
Hey, this is a reality show.
I like this.
it's a reality show trying to pick them, right? Just create a TV show like, yo, who's gonna be the 20? And we could follow that all. Matter of fact, I think y'all should host.
Listen, I'm down with it. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun. But if our end game is to calm down some of the noise, it's a fool's errand. It ain't gonna happen. We just live in that. You said it right, Marcus. We just live in a time where it's the extreme. If he didn't win and I wanted him to win, everybody else sucks. Everybody who voted for him sucks. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all know what y'all looking at. That's just, people will do that no matter who's in charge, no matter, what the voting process is.
Yeah, so, facts.
Yeah.
Can we at least then, if we're going to have the situation where somebody wins an MVP like Jokic, right, and like the world goes crazy because he doesn't deserve it, right? Can we at least go back to giving the MVP his trophy at home so he can at least have that moment? You know what I'm saying? Like,
let's do it right after the season.
Revered.
Let's just do it right after the season. Why it take so long to count ballots? Like, we're in 2022. This should be overnight. Like, your ballots are due a week after the season, and then the next day we announce that sucker. Like, so that way we ain't got to have the conversation about, like, oh, well, it should include the playoffs. No, it shouldn't. It's 82 games. There's plenty enough of a body of work to be MVP, and we understand that finals MVP is its own thing. And it has nothing to do with who the best player in the world is, who had the best season.
I really want to get this from you, Marcus, because I know you know. Michael mentioned Steph Curry and unanimous MVP, and there was some noise around that. You saw it up close. How did he handle it? Did he acknowledge it? Did he acknowledge the noise, or was he just like, "Hey, I'm good, thank you," and keep it pushing?
No, Steph never acknowledges it. He just writes it on his heart, right? He just like, okay, I hear y'all talking, right? Pop's trained him well, right? Like he knows what's up, but Steph always, publicly especially, he's got to lean towards the appreciation piece. But when he did start a film company, guess what he named that joker? Unanimous Media, right? Like he ain't like he heard it and he hears it all, but I think he just opts to go with the people who ride with him instead of giving voice to the critics. So one thing Steph understands is at some point they'll all be 65 and they'll be at some banquet and all the stuff will be fun to revisit, and it won't be the like enmity that is kind of created right now, right? Like him and Ja are going at it together. At some point, he's gonna put his arm around Ja and be like, "Man, you were incredible. Like you had me scared. Yeah. You thought, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what he sees, and I think he gets that from his father. But yeah, privately though, he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." He heard all the comments. Remember when Oscar Robertson was going in? Like all you gotta do is press up on him. Yeah, he hears all of that stuff. Trust me on it.
Like,
yo, man,
oh yeah, and like Oscar,
it's so much fun.
Oscar, you was doing that back in the day. You were pressing up on.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's so much fun to talk to you, Marcus. Man, let's work on this NBA MVP Illuminati idea. I'm with it. Like let's try our best to take it out of our hands because we are low hanging fruit in the media. They always think it's a conspiracy anyway. So
and get
good
it.
to see
come
you,
up
brother.
with a tattoo
great
that
shirt
they can
too.
put right behind their ear. Tattoo right behind their ear, let you know you in.
Oh, okay. Like Blade or something like a marking.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.